Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about how you can use configuration package to update standard cost in Dynamics NAV or Dynamics 365 Business Central. So the normal process is like you have to use the standard cost worksheet, okay, for the manufactured products. For the purchased items, if it's a brand new item, then you just update the standard cost on the item card. And then if it's an item already have ledger entries for that purchased item, then you use the Revaluation Journal to populate all the entries, then revalue the cost. And for manufactured item, you have to use the standard cost worksheet. So you have to run separate steps. First, you have to suggest item standard cost. This will get all the components standard cost, which is on the production BOM. Then you have to use the standard suggest capacity standard cost, which get the work center, machine center, resources cost rolled up to your finished goods cost. So not rolled up. So this step is only to get those costs. Then you have this step rolled up standard cost. Then this will roll up all the components and the capacity cost to the finished goods. And at that time, you will have the new standard cost updated for that item. And then you can select implement standard cost changes. This will generate the revaluation journal entry for you to post with this new standard cost. Because if you are having open ledger entries, open item ledger entries, and those need to be revalued to generate the variances between the new standard cost and existing cost recorded. So that's the whole process. And we ever have customers, they do not want to use the standard cost worksheet. And one of the reasons they told us they have different costs on different locations for the same item. And the standard cost worksheet does not have the location code field. So if you choose columns, yes, this standard cost worksheet doesn't have location code on it. The cost to update here is the one that will show up on the item card. And it's the one show up on the item card. But if you have stock keeping units which created from the item card, and the stock keeping unit will inherit the cost from the item card if you created stock keeping units from the item card. And later, that standard cost on the stock keeping units will not be updated just by you to change this. So their concern is they have the location for different stock keeping unit, the same item, but different location, they have different stock keeping units, and they want to get that standard cost on stock keeping unit card to update as well. So that's why they don't want to use the standard cost worksheet, because they think it does not have the location code. If you want to use configuration package, there's a way to use the configuration package, but you have to understand what can be updated, what cannot be updated with the configuration worksheet. So what I want to talk about, I will use one item here, 1001 as an example. Then you can see how this item is currently, how the standard cost is currently on the item card and stock keeping units. Then I can show you how you can do it with configuration package. So right now on the item card, the standard cost showing up is $1,200. So it's $1,200 actually. So it's $1,200. And if you go to the stock keeping units for this item, then you can see I have this item created for all my locations, and only have 2 locations which has quantity on hand for this item. So blue and green. If you open the blue location, the standard cost is $1,200. But on the green location, since already manually updated on the item card, so then the standard cost is $1,500. Okay, so to manually update it, I still want to show you how you can use configuration package, but I want to show what is the standard cost currently on the item card and stock keeping unit card right now. Okay. So if you do want to create a configuration package, what I will recommend is like in your Revaluation Journal. So let's first do a test, and you can see what that cost is, how that cost is updated. So standard cost worksheet. This is the first step that we want to go. Okay, and so what this does is like for this item. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this and do it again. So remember on my item card, I have the on my item card, my standard cost shows 1200 for now. So, but I want to update it based on whatever because that item is a make to order item with the replenishment system set up as a production order. So then you have to use the standard cost worksheet, right? So this is the so let's see here, the production order replenishment system, and it's make to order. So it has a production BOM. So the basic steps for it, if you don't use configuration package, is like you have to go to suggest item cost. Okay, and so I will just run this, and so you see, but this is for all the components items, and then I run the suggest capacity. Okay, and this is for all the machine center work centers. Okay, and you can see I have machine centers, work centers, and resources showing up at the bottom. And the roll up standard cost, I'm gonna roll up the standard cost. When it roll up, then you will see this item will come up because the finished good item will come up. This is the finished good, and it's actually telling me based on what you have on the. I'm gonna delete all the other items so we can see it clearly only for this item. Okay, so it's telling me based on what you have on the production BOM and the capacity. And so because on the BOM and on your resources, work centers, machine centers, you also have standard cost. And when those costs are rolled up to this finished item, actually the standard cost is supposed to be this. This is based on the fact like you already updated, because for your production BOM components, then they can be phantom production order, like they can have their subassembly as well. Or it can be a purchased item. If it's if it's a raw material, then it will be a purchased item, right? Because you do not manufacture the raw material. Like you purchase the raw material, then you make your products. Then for this item, it based on whatever you have, then it's calculated. This is the based on those components and work center resource, all those are updated with the correct standard cost. Then based on those standard costs and your updated finished goods standard cost will be this. So some customers, they said they do not calculate from NAV or Business Central. They just use another, maybe Excel, whatever method they calculate outside of the system. They want to use that cost as a standard cost for the item and use that cost to update the existing standard cost. Yeah, that's possible. So what I want to show you here is like right now you see the new standard cost. Right now it shows it's $1,145 for 45 cents, right? Even after you run this until the roll up standard cost steps, if you go back to your item card standard cost will not change. It will still be 1,200. Okay, so what make that change is still 1,200. What make that item card standard cost to change is like the step when you trigger the implement standard cost changes, then it will trigger it. So let's change it to 2,000, let's say. Okay, remember I put in 2,000 in, then I want to update it from 1,200 to 2,000. Then you can see what is the result. If I click on implement standard cost changes, then click on OK. This will trigger on the item card that standard cost will be changed. I want to show you this before I use the configuration package, is because there's something the configuration package cannot do. So you see, when you click on implement, then it just trigger the standard cost on the item card to change. At the same time, it will generate a revaluation journal for this line of the item, because you want the new cost to be changed to 2,000. So then I'm going to my revaluation journal, and in the revaluation journal, you will see this line shows up. So the new cost is 2,000, right? And you could see somehow the unit cost calculated is not at 1200. The reason it's not at 1200 is because it's an average. So this is a calculated, it's a weighted average, because this unit cost is summing up the cost. So you remember I have stock keeping units, right? And on the stock keeping units card, I have if I go back to this item, the total quantity on hand is 41. But this 41 are not all on the same location. So this 41, if you go to stock keeping units, you can see it's very clearly there's 31 on the blue location, there's 10 on the green location. They're on different location. And if you open the stock keeping unit card for that 31, and that standard cost, it's updated to 2000. That's the new one. As I said, once you click on implement, it will trigger that to change, right? And on this green location, it's supposed to be changed to 2000 as well, right? But that's the new cost that hasn't been, so even on the stock keeping unit card and the item card, it changed, but it didn't change. The open ledger entries didn't implement this new cost yet. So what the system tells you is like the total 41 on hand, they're on 2 different locations, and the calculated average is that whatever you see in the revaluation journal, because the cost like previously registered on the ledger entries for those 2 locations are different. One is 1200, another one was different. If you remember 1300 something, it's a different number. 1500, right? It's a different number. So that's why it's calculated the average for the discount quantity, and based on different locations. And then, so that's why I'm saying this location, you do not need this location code. So, but if you still want to change it differently on different location code, then we'll show you. So this unit cost revalued, what it's gonna do is gonna, if you post this entry, let's post this entry, then if you go back to, when you post the revaluation journal, it will generate those variances for those open ledger entries between the new standard cost and the old standard cost, okay, and in the value entries. So if we go back to this item and go to stock keeping units and look at this blue location, then we can see, if you click on the 3 dots beside the standard cost, you can see we implemented this 2000 just now, right? So actually this is for the 31. We implement 2000 for this 31, the quantity 31. And then for that 10, which is actually on the green location, you can see them all from that stock keeping units or from this. So for that 10 is for this green location. That's the 10. They all implemented this because they are open ledger entries, right? And they all implemented this new cost 2000. You see the cost is adjusted, it's not checked because we didn't run the adjust cost item entries yet. So you still have to run that job, then that checkbox will be checked. So what I want to tell you is when you update from the standard cost worksheet, then it will update your item card standard cost. And also it will update your all the stock keeping unit cards with the same standard cost you just implemented. And when you post in the revaluation journal, it will generate the variances for the different locations between the old cost and the new cost. But because some customers, they're saying they do not want to use the same standard cost on different locations. So in this case, like they may want to, the blue location, they may want to have 2000 and the green location, it only be 1500. So they do not want standard cost worksheet because it will update them to the same standard cost. And they want the different location, different stock keeping unit to show different standard cost. The customers, some customers are having issue with. So what they want to do, in order to achieve what you want to do with different location, but with the configuration package, the first step you have to do is like, you have to go to you still have to do this revaluation, okay? And what this revaluation does is like you have to calculate your inventory. For example, for this, if we only use this item as example, when you calculate this, then you will have, you see, you have it for all the locations, and all the open entries, will come up. We totally have 40, 30, 40. Okay, so these are all the item ledger entries open at all locations. And what you want to do here, if you want to revalue this cost based on different location, want the different location to have different unit cost, standard cost. So because right now I only have one item, I can easily just change this unit cost revalued here. So for example, I want the blue location still have 2,000, or I can change it to 3,000. Okay, just for you to see how this result, and I can change this to green location to 2,500. And if you just have one item, you can do it from this Revaluation Journal. But let's think like you have thousands of items. If you have thousands of items, you don't want to do it one by one, right? So you don't want to update thousands of lines. You may want to export it to Excel, use a configuration package, and to do it, then update this, then you can post. That's what you want to do. But let's first see what the result of this, okay? If I only, so remember right now on all the stock keeping units, and for this item on both the item card and stock keeping unit card, the standard cost is showing as 2,000, right? I want to change it for blue location, the stock keeping unit card, I want to change it to 3,000, and on the green location, I want to change it to 2,500. Let's see what's the result. So, and then I'm gonna post this. So if I posted this, then you go back. So that's run adjust cost item entries, and just make sure adjust cost item entry. Just make sure all the costs are adjusted. Okay, so 1001. Okay, for this item, and okay, so adjust it. And so if we go back to this item card, you can see on this item card, the standard cost will not update. Even you post a revaluation journal, that does not update the standard cost on the item card. Remember what that revaluation journal does is just create this entry. So it created entry, this is 2,500 for the green location. And for the other location, I was using 3,000. I was using 3,000, but because quantity I revalued is 30, it's not 31. So there's a 1 of the quantity now showing up there. That's why you see this is not exactly 3,000. So let me see why is that quantity not showing up. We can go to the item ledger entries to take a look what is there's remaining. We can use this as open. So these are all the open ledger entries. For the blue location, we have 30. We see 30 in our revaluation journal. There's 1 did not show up. 30, 20. Okay, there's 1 did not show up. The reason is like you could see there's an invoice quantity. So that invoice wasn't done yet. Okay, so the purchase order wasn't invoiced yet. So that 1 wasn't showing up because it hasn't been finalized. There's no invoice for it yet. So that's why we only see 30 instead of 31. So 30. This is the third. When we did the revaluation, we only did the 30. We didn't do the whole 31. So there's a invoice quantity here, and that purchase receipt hasn't been invoiced yet, so it hasn't finalized, so it didn't let us to revalue it. So that's part that it didn't show exactly 3,000, but you can still see it from this. You can see it's that 3,000 is working on the 31 on this quantity. And it did revalue the cost, but it didn't update the standard cost on the item card. So as I said, you could see the effect for the standard cost on the item card to update is when we click on implement from the standard cost worksheet. That triggers this to change to the new cost. And the revaluation journal posting is only to generate the ledger entry, the item ledger entries to and the value entries to revalue it, what the variances between the new standard cost and old standard cost. Okay, so if we look at the stock keeping units, and you could see none of the stock keeping unit card has this standard cost change as well. So this blue location is still on the stock keeping unit card. It still shows 2,000, and the green location it still shows 2,000. Only when you click on the three dots, then you can see the ledger entries really got the new cost implemented. Okay, so that's why. So if you are only using a configuration package, then you will see some inconsistency between the item card and also between the what you imported and what you posted for the revaluation journal, because there are two steps. One step is for update item card standard cost. Another step is to use the revaluation journal to post the value entries to revalue the cost and to generate the variances to revalue the cost. So there are two steps. So by only using the configuration package, only with that revaluation journal, with the table behind the revaluation journal is the item journal line table. You can use that item journal line table in your configuration package, but that when even after you posted that revaluation journal on the item card or stock keeping unit card, you still have the old cost. Then your configuration package should include two parts. One is the item card, three tables. The item table you can only include the item number and the standard cost field. And the stock keeping unit table, then you only need to include the stock keeping unit number and the standard cost. And then your revaluation journal. So you have to use three packages in order to update both the item card, stock keeping unit card, and then the configuration package, and then the open ledger entries cost. But the key part for this revaluation is if you cannot just change standard cost on the item card directly, because that will not generate the variances and revalue the cost. It will use the standard cost you set up on the item card for new entries, but the old open entries did not get revalued at the time you change the standard cost. You need to revalue those. Otherwise, when you reconcile the cost, then you will have big discrepancies. You cannot just open all so because some customer they just use the configuration package and with the item table, then just update the standard cost on the item table directly. So that will not do the whole work. You still have to do those revaluation. So for the configuration package, it's easy. So if you really want to do it, so what you want to do, because I said, if you look at your revaluation journal, then the revaluation journal is using the item journal line table. Okay, and but it's better like you still populate this. You still, because when you calculate your revaluation journal, so the best is like you still calculate this in your revaluation journal, and then if you don't want, because I just removed that filter for that specific item. If you have thousands of items, you can just run this calculate inventory value, and then you go to your configuration package. You go to your configuration package and to create a configuration package for this table, which is the item journal line table. Then I already created. So then also you can limit the fields, because you may not want all the fields. Some fields, so you can clear everything included and only select certain fields you need. So these, because the first three fields are mandatory, they are the primary key. There are keys, the keys for the table. So you cannot clear all the. You can even I want to clear the line number. It does not allow me. You cannot clear this first three, but you can clear this. So the first three, you must have them in your configuration package. Then you can select your item number, document number, location code, quantity, and also you can select your value value entry type, and unit cost revalued. You can select these, and then you export it to Excel. So after you export it to Excel, then you will have a table like this. I already did this. I don't want to create that again. So this is the original. So so what you have will let me see if this is the one. If it's not, then we can just export again. So yeah, this is the one. So you will create something like this, and you have these fields. Because I wanted to populate back to the Revaluation Journal, and so you have the journal template name, journal batch name, line number, item number, posting date, document number, location code, quantity, value entry type, unit cost. Okay, this will so if you populated. So what I want to say is, like, if you populated this originally from the Revaluation Journal, then you use these fields, then it will post. But if you didn't, everything is empty, and then you just want to create a configuration package with these fields, and then you want to just import this configuration package back and post that Revaluation Journal, you will not be able to. The reason is, like, once the location code is involved, then you have to apply it to entries. This field must be selected. So when you calculate this inventory value and everything populated here, there's item ledger entries associated to it. So you need to have this applies to entry field populated. For your configuration package, you export it because you're not going to update this field. You do not need to include this field. But when you import it back, it will update this unit cost revalued, but it still used applies to entry. The same applies to entry. That's not a problem. But if you don't have anything, you delete everything here, then you want to use that configuration package to post. It will not allow you because you don't have that applies to entry field populated. So, but you will not want to populate that field manually from your Excel spreadsheet. You always want to calculate inventory value so that the system automatically does it for you. You don't want to do it manually to see which entry you need to apply. You don't want to do that manually. So if the configuration package you created does not have the location code, then it doesn't care. It doesn't care about the applies to entry. Because before we did this, when we implement this from the standard cost worksheet, you still remember this part. When you implement this, if you look at the Revaluation Journal, then it does not have a location code. Revaluation Journal. If we look at the Revaluation Journals again, then you can see you don't have the location code here because it just summarizes everything to this quantity, and also you don't have the applies to entry here. So if you don't want to split by different stock keeping unit location for different cost, then it's okay. Like your configuration package, you only have to quantity these. As long as you don't specify the location code, it will not allow you. It will not ask you to populate this applies to entry field. Then you are able to post after you import it back your configuration package. Okay, so that's how the configuration package looks like just for the Revaluation Journal for this table. You will want to include the item table and the stock keeping units table as well, because as I said, if you do it this way, you handle the revaluation part for the variance posting. But you didn't handle, what you didn't handle is you didn't update the standard cost on the item card and the stock keeping unit cards. That part is triggered when you use the standard cost worksheet. It's triggered when you click on the implement button. That will trigger that the item card and stock keeping unit card standard cost to update. So then you need to include 3 tables. One is the item journal line table, another one is the item table, another one is standard stock keeping unit table for your configuration package. If you doesn't want to use the standard cost worksheet to do it. If you don't want to do it this way, you still want to use your stock keeping units. You still want to use your standard cost worksheet. Then your configuration package can be created just for your standard cost worksheet, right? So let's say when you did this, when you run all these batch jobs, there's thousands of items here, but there's too many, you don't want to do it one by one here. Then you can use the configuration package to export this table. So this is also another option. And then everything will be done consistently, right? So then you just need to export this table 5841 and then import it back. Then after you updated the new standard cost, import it back. And then you click on implement. Then system will does that part for you. You don't need to include another configuration package to update the item card. But the disadvantage of this is like when you click on implement, the new standard cost will apply to will be the same for both the item card and stock keeping unit card. So it will not achieve what you want to have different stock keeping unit card to have different standard cost. So that's the disadvantage of doing it this way. But if that's not a problem for you, then you can use the configuration packages for this table and then import it back. And to update this standard cost worksheet, click on implement, and that will update your item card stock keeping unit card to the same standard cost. Then you just post the revaluation journal. That's another option, and I think that's a good option. The reason for you to use standard cost is like this cost is standard is stable, and it may not vary for different locations. So you want to use the same cost. You may want to use the same standard cost for different locations. You don't want to differentiate. But if that's not the case, even you want to use standard cost, you still want to differentiate the standard cost for different locations. Then you can use the first approach I just talked about. You can still use the revaluation. You can use the revaluation journal to populate everything that you want to that the system suggests you to revalue. Then export it to through the configuration package together with the item table and the stock keeping unit table, and update them and import it back. Then it will do the job.
Thank you for watching this Archer Point video. You can stay in the know with the latest on Microsoft Dynamics by subscribing to this channel. You can also learn more from our blog at archerpoint.com or contact Archer Point by emailing info@archerpoint.com. We'll see you in the next video.